How to run a process for fundraising. Actually, before I go into this, do people have any questions? I can kind of stop and pause here. Okay, I can't see you all, but I will assume that
Last
that.
one. Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
you said convictions. What are your strong convictions? What are you seeing out there that makes sense to you?
I mean, I like all sorts of different things. Like every other crypto VC, I think you have to kind of sway towards infrastructure protocol tokens. So without going down that rabbit hole, I still think we've yet to see, and this is part of the reason why I'm here. I still think we've yet to see really interesting things in Bitcoin. I think we've seen a lot of teams launch. I'm not sure to like this point of the like, are these the best founders in the world? I think we've seen a lot of projects, but I'm not sure that we've seen a lot that are going to become multiple billion-dollar projects. But I think there's room. Obviously, it's like, you know, most of crypto is Bitcoin. And if you believe that Bitcoin is, the future of wealth and an asset that's here to stay, like a gold, you have to believe that there will be more useful things um, to do in the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I think that's obviously one. I've been really long. I know this is now hot, but I've been long on stablecoins and rebuilding the payments layer for a while, since like 2015. I still think the blockchain is a much more efficient way to run payments. So I still love that thesis. I think that's one of those categories where actually it's hard to find things that will also be billion-dollar plus opportunities, because a lot of them will end up trading like Web2 companies, which means they need $100 million plus ARR long term. Um, I still actually like DePIN and real world use cases. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are interesting to me. I'm very indexed on the founder, wondering what Julia's hardest FOMO, um, hardest FOMO moment. I don't know if I describe it as FOMO, but it's definitely something that I got really wrong, and I'm really mindful of it now. Is whatever the primary narrative was of the cycle doesn't necessarily result in the primary largest outcomes, right? So a lot of investors, myself included, got caught up in, okay, NFTs may potentially the future of loyalty, potentially the future of e-commerce, potentially the future of tracking, credentialing, verification on chain, right? There was this whole thing from the last wave around NFTs. Almost all those companies are dead. And so that was a big mistake. And I'm really mindful of that this cycle, where I think there's some truth to this AI agent stuff, but I don't know if the players that we're seeing now will be multiple billion-dollar winners that have staying power. And I also think similar to NFTs, where it's getting so commoditized that picking winners becomes much more challenging. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you for answering that, Julia.
Yeah.
Interesting that you would see FOMO as a signal to stay away rather than to invest, because we had a talk before with Nick, and he said that when he feels FOMO, then he is more likely to jump in. So that was very insightful. Thank
Well,
you.
so there is some truth to that. So like what you want to do when you're fundraising is build FOMO, right? You
Hmm.
want to create the perception that this is a rocket ship and that people need to jump on it. We're going
Okay.
to talk about some tactics that you can do to do that. And so what I'm talking about is less about like a deal of FOMO and more about um I answered your question kind of a different way, which are like kind of like what are learnings or mistakes that I've made in terms of because of FOMO, I potentially made, a bad mistake. But if you're like trading liquid tokens and you know that you're early in terms of the awareness cycle, if you know that you hear about things early and you know that those things have momentum in your community and you know that your community is consistently early, then you probably have a good indicator at that point if you're feeling FOMO that it probably makes sense to buy because you know that's going to continue because you know where you sit in like the adoption curve, right? So I guess there's a couple different ways. Um,
Yeah.
Do you have time for one more question before we go into the next slide?